Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Schoolstone, your Saturday and Sunday afternoon THL show, bringing you some of the hottest matches. Today, I am Lotus Knight, one of your hosts, and I am joined by Wild Nine. Wild Nine, how are you doing?
Doing good. Excited to be here again, and also excited for the matches we have. We have some pretty intense matches today.
We do. These are some really hype matches. We're just going to go really quickly talk about what we have. We're going to start with the legacy match in Icicles versus Duin, or Icicles versus Duin, and that is going to be followed by Ridiculous Hat versus Nails, which is another insane match. Let's focus on our first match. This is a legacy match. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the classes that we're going to be seeing here and these players, Wild Nine?
Yeah, so we have Duin and Isocles facing off. They're in the three spot, the three seed for their respective teams. Currently, the team score, I guess, that we have here is with Anoya team or Duin's team with 9 points, Chaos Theory with 6 points. That's Isocles' team. We have for Duin, we have Hunter, Paladin, Priest, and Rogue. And for Isocles, we have Druid, Paladin, Priest, and Warrior. And these are pretty interesting matchups. I feel like Isocles had some foresight here, perhaps, because his class lineup does really well against both Hunter and Rogue, which Duin has, I guess, unfortunately brought, so to speak. So it'll be interesting to see how Duin will handle that, what the bans will be, whether he pivots on any of these classes, especially the Rogue class in particular.
For sure. I think there's a lot that can be said about some of these classes. I personally am very interested in that rogue, and I think Warrior this week had this resurgence where it went from being the worst class pre nerfs to kind of just being one of the top three classes, arguably the best class to some people.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
emergence of Rush Warrior, right? I mean, it's been crazy to hear. I was just listening to Ridiculous Hat, who will be here soon, but on his podcast just last week, they're talking about how Warrior has no playable classes, and then all of a sudden, it's all the rage right now.
Yeah, and Icicles being the player who brought Icicles is a bit of a control player from what I know, but these are not all control classes. Let me ask you one thing though. How do you feel about Priest right now? Because Priest is another one of those classes that just kind of bloomed recently. So I wanted to get your opinion on it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I had we had to submit classes. I'm also in Legacy, right? So we had to submit classes on Thursday. And at that time, I felt like we were right at the edge where Priest could become in meta, so to speak, especially against some of the more popular classes that are, currently being played on ladder. So Priest has great win rates. Control Priest has great win rates against Face Hunter, has good win rates against Rush Warrior, does pretty even against Paladin and also beats Druid. And these are some of the most popular classes right now. So it does seem like Priest has kind of, as these lists have become more refined. Now I don't know because again, I got because these are, I guess people have that advantage, right? Because they're playing Sunday instead of on Thursday, and so you're able to maybe get some better priestless out. But I do think priest is going to be a very strong class next week, and this past week is going to prove, in some sense, that priest is going to be a really important class to bring.
I agree. In talking about these specific lineups, though, how do you feel? What are the decks that they're bringing? I assume if I'm looking at Icicles, I would probably be going with something like a Token Druid. Not sure the Paladin, maybe Aggro, Control Priest, and Rush Warrior. But what would you bring if you were doing here?
Yeah, I think that the biggest question mark for Duin is going to be that rogue slot. One of the nice things about rogue, even in this early meta, is that you can flex it out into a couple different packages. So certainly playing the two more popular ones, of course, are the Miracle Rogue and the Poison Rogue, and I mean, their matchup threads are interesting. It probably depends on your ban strategy here because Miracle Rogue is probably middle of the road across the board, but not favored against any of these matchups really. But Poison Rogue much worse against some of these matchups, but also much better, or it gives you a slight edge in some of these matchups if you leave them up. So like Poison Rogue is somewhat better, slightly favored against Priest, things like that. And then you have the added potential shift to Secret Rogue, which is actually gathering more steam, and people are more interested in Rogue, especially if you expect a more controlled lineup. And so that's where I think it's going to be interesting. There is some potential benefit to doing something really more surprising, perhaps, which would be odd maybe because I don't know where you're gonna get wins from some of your other classes if you do something weird like not ban paladin or priest. But if you leave priest up, I mean, Secret Rogue does have a good matchup against it. But I think it'll be interesting, and even like even if when you choose these archetypes, considering some of the text, perhaps, especially maybe in Miracle Rogue in particular, where there's a lot more flex cards, I think that might determine some of these matchups a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it is going to come to some of the tech cards. Like, do you go for more tempo cards? Do you play an OTK? Like Alex Tenwu and Shadow Steps are an OTK, so you could go that route. Um, I'm not sure. I don't know exactly where Duin is going to take this. It's one of the most interesting sides of this match. I think Icicles' lineup is more standard in many ways and way more what we would expect from a player, especially a player of Icicles' caliber. We
Yeah, I do.
have asked them for bans, so we have a little bit of time before they begin. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I do think that we're gonna learn a lot, I think, kind of from the ban strategy a bit, whether if you're gonna bring a package that's slower, then you're gonna leave up some of the classes that you expect to be slower, and you might ban some of the faster classes, right, that you're expecting. So it kind of depends on what Duin is gonna try to target, right? In some sense, I think in this conquest lineup, if you can, you're gonna try to build your decks to target maybe two classes, and then you ban one of the other ones, and then the third class. And right now, I think this is how it is, especially when they're mirrored on Paladin and Priest. I think on some level, you're kind of like, look, one of these are going to get a win, either the Paladin or the Priest. But which one do I ban? Which one do I think sets me up better to deal with the other two remaining classes and allow me to tech on that level? So on some level, you could say, for example, from Duin's perspective, oh, I'm going to ban the priest. I'm going to assume it's Rush Warrior. These are more aggressive lineups now, Druid, Paladin, Warrior. Maybe. I mean, it depends on what Paladin Isocles brings. And maybe you try to tech, towards that end, a little more tempo, a little more defensive in some sense, or getting rid of the board, things like that.
Right. Yeah. If I think the big interesting one for me is actually that druid. Not that I expect the druid to do anything different than the token, but I think a lot of it is going to deal with how does Duin deal with this druid, especially if Icicle considers a priest ban because warrior is pretty bad into priest, paladin is not great into priest, druid is not great into priest. So you could see a priest ban followed by can my token druid sweep. I'm interested to see if that's a dynamic that's going to happen or if they had more creative ideas than what I just said.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first week, so I am I am kind of assuming more standard play in some sense. I do feel like Isocles, from his perspective, has a simpler storyline maybe because his matchups are like generally good against Hunter. I mean, assuming it's Face Hunter and Rogue, generally speaking, either Miracle or Poison. I think you're gonna expect probably Miracle Rogue. Um, and so in some sense, just running either paladin list, although I might slightly favor Secret Librum, just because if it's not banned, I kind of think that it will do better in the matchups that you would expect. But running the token out there, running the Rush Warrior, I think you're gonna feel really good about those two decks. And then I mean, Paladin is just strong and Priest is just strong right now. So I feel like Isocles will probably go a pretty standard route.
We have just received note on the bans. This is a double priest. So I am giving them the go. What would you queue first if this is a double priest ban?
Interesting. Queuing first, double pre-span. I mean, maybe you just go paladins? I mean, it is the other kind of overall, very solid lineup, right?
Right. I think the paladin is a potential because, especially for icicles, your paladin. The only way you beat paladin here, or the best way, is the druid. The rest isn't great. So, and the paladin has a really good matchup into the hunter. Not great into secret rogue. If that's secret rogue, you're not happy to see a paladin. But
Yeah.
I I wouldn't be surprised with both players starting with a paladin and saying this is the class that has the most chance to just get through quite easily.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think that Duin certainly I mean, maybe Isocles does something a little different because I feel like if I'm Isocles, I expect Paladin first.
That's
Oh,
true.
okay, but Duin, has not chosen to go with Paladin, surprisingly.
No, we have Duin starting with his Hunter, which is his comfort deck. Duin on Hunter is pretty much what you would expect. And Icicle's not on his comfort pick of the Mage class, but starting with the Paladin. And if this is Libram, I'm pretty sure Icicles would be the favored one here, right?
Yeah, I think that I mean, he's favored in both, but the Libram version is definitely gonna be far more favored because you got all that heal going on. It's interesting, we saw one tech card already in this Paladin list, but he mulliganed it away. It's the Ogremancer, so he does play at least one copy of an Ogremancer. Interesting tech choice as well, but I guess it does make sense.
Yeah, Ogreman's just kind of a tech card against almost everything but Rush Warrior. I think that's the only deck that doesn't care that much about Ogremancer because you don't play a lot of spells, but almost anything else plays a lot of spells. Now, one card that's really interesting to me that I have not been seeing in Hunter lists is actually Zixor. I don't know, is this something you've been seeing recently?
I have seen a version of a list that does run 6 source. I have no idea how good it is, in this matchup or in general. I do think that there's some value because of the Wrangler. I mean, you can do some nutty things as well as, have a little more reach, right? If you're expecting in some sense longer drawn out games where you are going to get to 8 mana essentially, this is one thing that you can do to help you reestablish board, which is something that of course is not always easy to do in Hunter, especially in the late game. So it's an interesting tech choice that he's made. I'm not sure what he's looking at, meaning like and I'd have to look at numbers, I guess, because I actually don't know how it performs in these matchups against Druid, Paladin, or Warrior. It doesn't strike me obviously, as a tech card to go for, you know?
It does seem to
Okay,
line up
well
really well into the Zixor build.
exactly. Yes, it does seem to line up here. I mean, there's some I would have thought a little bit I would have to think a little bit longer just because of Imprisoned Felmaw. I mean, that draw and, even in any face hunter matchup, I mean, it's an important card to lay down pretty early, but I understand that, he really does want to, clear the board, right? He does want to clear the board, especially against Paladin. You don't want them to buff that or take control of the board. So we're seeing a few more tech cards from the Paladin. We're seeing the Cult Neophyte, which isn't necessarily that amazing or surprising, but he is running a list then with Blessing of Authority and Argent Braggart, which means that it looks to be not the Libran Pally version, right? But the straight up secret version.
Right. And I think this seems to be the aggro. I'm not even sure if he's running just Jackie's list or if he's running the secret package because there's the Jackie list that's been going around quite a bit. And that list, you cut the secret. You just say, as
You're
a
right.
1 2, Sword of the Fallen is not good enough for me to run. So I would rather cut the secret and run more aggro stuff. Blessing of Authority. This is a 5 mana, give a minion +8/+8. And yeah, it's not super broken, but it is a very good card.
I really like this play from Duin. Just using the coin just for 2/1/1s, right? But it clears the board again. And it feels like he has a really good read on this paladin where, he's not gonna let this 5 mana 8/8 buff come down, right? And yeah, you're right. I totally forgot about this cutting the secret package completely. The version I've seen of this kept at that time was still early and it kept the secret passage. But you're right. Now there's this much more aggressive version, which is, you know, in some ways, Doohan has found the right cards because he's just constantly able to keep him off the board, and that's going to be a real problem, I think, for this paladin to come back into the game.
Yeah, especially if a spell is drawn here, even though, yeah, you don't really want to cast a spell out of the Cult Neophyte. If a spell is drawn, um, something like the buff, give a minion +1/+1, that would be so good.
And he draws this quick shot, which is still fine even with the neophyte. Clears the board again, keeps your 2/3s alive. I mean, you could have also done the trampling rhino, but then you'd lose one of these 2/3s, so makes sense. And that's the other thing about Duin's hand here. He's got this Warsaw Wrangler to get the Zixors if he wants, in this position, which is a scary thought.
Yeah, the Zixor is an alternate win condition. I was actually going to say, I love the question every match of what is your win condition in this match, or how would you think about your win condition for this particular match? And usually in aggro mirrors, the win condition is I kill my opponent faster. Every once in a while, there are matchups in which the deck that plays control will tend to win, but a lot of times it's just you want to be the fastest one. And I think this Zixor creates an interesting point that having a Zixor board kind of works like a Chef Nomi. It works in a win condition on its own.
Yeah, definitely, especially when you pair it with this Wrangler. So I'm actually pretty surprised that Isocles chose to bring this paladin. Honestly, it doesn't. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the numbers to be honest. I just don't know the numbers of how good it is. I would have expected the Libre version because it's just safer into these lineups in my thought. So I'd be interested to hear to hear his thought process because I'm sure there's something going on that I just am not aware of in terms of the matchups and what he was thinking going into these classes because hindsight is 2020, right? And I think that he could still come back from here, but going down to 12, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, there is a 10-11. So if you're going to win, that's the way you win. Just make sure you have a really big thing your opponent can do nothing about. At the same time, I don't think this is the case of a thing that your opponent can do nothing about because a 10-11 is good, but if it goes face ones, you're still at 19 with a board full of minions. And Aggro
Exactly.
Paladin doesn't play Conk right now.
Yeah, that 50-50 with the 5-4 going face was huge. I mean, he really needed that to hit the 10-11. And now, he's got everything he needs to finish the game. And this paladin's not going to be able to do 30 in 2 turns.
Yeah, I personally would have gone for a different route here. I would have taken the Wolpertinger instead of the 1/1, instead of the Zixar Prime, because there's a very small chance that you need it. And because in that very, very unlikely case, you go for Wolpertinger, you have a bigger board, and then you can quick shot and draw next turn. But I can understand the reasoning for Zixar Prime being that in an emergency, I have a board.
Yeah, I feel like it's a comfort pick. I don't know if I was doing in that situation too. I'd feel like I just feel so comfortable. Like no matter what happens here, I have an out in some sense with the six horse. But I do agree. If you just play that 1/1, you have a quick shot for more draw anyway, immediately in the next turn. You've seen a lot of the deck now. There shouldn't be any healing or anything that you're really worried about. So I agree with you in your thought process, but I totally get why in that situation you might just be like, I'm just gonna get the Zixers here just in case.
Yeah. Zigzor is also it's not a bad play at all, but I just think there are more efficient ways of you or more efficient plays you can take on the board right now. especially because as we're seeing right now, this is not lethal. Much as you just want a hero power
Yeah,
and get it done, this doesn't win the game.
right. I agree. I mean, you're right in saying it. It's, that the other play gives you draw and it puts more on the board. You would have had lethal, right, with the other 2, buffed up minions.
Right.
Well,
Well,
it's not gonna matter.
no,
Don't
definitely
think there's a
not.
Murloc here, if that helps you.
Yeah, I think you could get crazy with Murlocs, but that wasn't the case. You needed a broom with something crazy right now, and that just did not happen, which gives the win to Duin's Hunter. I don't think that's a surprise, but yeah, Hunter does get through for Duin.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's not a surprise for sure, but at the same time, I would feel a little I guess if I'm Isocles, I feel the heat a bit. And I kind of question the paladin list or like the specific choices here. I mean, it's hard. It's early in the meta, and again, like I said, I don't know what the stats are for that. But I think the draws were reasonable. You know, they were both reasonable. Generally speaking, it's not nothing was too crazy. I don't think, and it didn't pan out right. So.
Yeah. We are now going for the next match, though, and this is the Paladin, which I think is also aggro for Duin, versus Isocles Rush Warrior. So what are you looking for in the mulligan for Rush Warrior? Since that's a brand new deck, I think Rokara is a big one. Stage Dive, Crab Rider. Any particular things you tend to look for?
You look for the I'm terrible with card names. The 3 mana 1/10 battle cry thing.
War
Uh, what is that called again?
Warmo Challenger.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's good. The Crab Rider is great as well. And then he sets up a stage dive here, as well as has Rakara in hand if this does survive for a while. Oh, interesting. The Ogremancer um, tech again. Yeah, you're right. This is basically the same list in an aggressive paladin. I thought it was interesting right from the bat, though, that he mulliganed a curve of 2, 3, 4, and even 5. Um, I'm I'm assuming he's playing a lot of one drops, and he got. I mean, he did get one, but it wasn't really the one he wanted. So I don't know. That felt a little greedy, but he's lucked out here in some sense because Rush Warrior on 2 basically drew a blank and wasn't able to clear the board.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this tiny fin here. This tiny fin is actually really major because you need to keep putting boards, and having a 1-1 that's just going to be there, it lands okay. I think with the Rokara is the only downside of it, but it's still a good one to get. It's a 0 mana 1-1. It's not amazing, but it can do something. And if it survives for 2 turns, that means Blessing of Authority lands on.
Right. I mean, he's gonna have a tempo play on 4. This is the big question. Do you value trade the 1/1, but then you let the axe okay, he is going to do it. I mean, you do let the axe take care of it, but he's got his own axe probably is what he's thinking.
Yeah. I
So
think
this
we're
seems pretty fine.
I think we're going to see here the Goody Two Shields, which is a really good minion just to have on the board. It's so resistant to everything. And the Blessing of Authority again, if you can play that, Rush Warrior Cries, and if you can follow it up with the 2 mana 1-1 that becomes whatever you have, that's so good.
Yeah. I mean, do you just Blessing of Authority here, right? What does Rush Warrior have that deals with this massive 10 health minion?
I don't think it has anything. I would do you even trade first? Actually, probably
Well, you
not.
you can't kill it though, right? Yeah, so you gotta do it before. You don't get the shield back, but you gotta kill this minion, I assume.
Yeah, you could leave it as a 2-1, but that just sounds bad. Um, Rush Warrior needs to hand buff. They need Parade Leader into the Riders. So if you there's a very good play to remove stuff, which is Parade Leader into the little 1-1s that you get the Riders into Playmaker. That can be a play that just tends to deal so much damage. Each of the Riders is just 8 damage. But this doesn't seem to be it.
Yeah, his hand is pretty slow. I guess I would be trying to think of, is there a way for me to get this tent trasher? Okay, yeah, he does have a clear, right. It's just enough, but you take 12 to face, which, yeah, you just deal with, I guess.
Yeah,
But
but
unfortunately,
unfortunately,
this
this
Naru,
Naru.
this Hammer of the Naru is a clock now, right?
Yeah, this means you're at 6. If you cannot kill a minion, which it seems to be the case right now that you cannot kill the 6/6, you're dead.
Yep. And that was rough. I mean, I guess this is the power of the secret deck that we were just talking about. If it just curves out, it's just really strong. I'm sure that if it had worked out where the hunter didn't have all those rushes in game one to constantly clear off the board, then we would have seen something similar, but the other way. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe it just looks good or looks bad, depending on what your opponents have and depending on what you draw, right?
Yeah, and Duin just needs a win with the rogue now into that druid, paladin, warrior lineup. So we're going to see if he can get that, starting with the rogue against the warrior.
All right, so this is Miracle Rogue, which is a good, which makes sense. I mean, I'm not too surprised. It's got reasonable matchups across the board, but its worst matchup, typically speaking, is the Rush Warrior. So, yeah, Isaac Lee is trying to get a win on the board first, and then see what he can do from there.
Yeah, I think an important note here is this is legacy. So remember that your goal is to get as many points for your team as possible. Even if you lose, you always want to get all of your decks through as much as you can because that's just points for later. And trust me, sometimes 1 point is enough for you to get through a series that you should not be getting through.
For sure. We do have Warrior with a perfect curve, so 1, 2, 3, essentially, and Rogue with honestly not too much going on here. Yes, this draw cards play basically, but
Yeah,
really
they
not much going on.
no, they have Kazakus. That's really what they're looking to do. It's kind of say Kazakus save me and hope it works. That good enough? I am not sure, especially given that we're probably going to see a conditioning on 4 or on 5. I mean, you could stage dive or just go for the 110 here into Ringmaster Watley into conditioning. And that's just so good.
Yeah, especially with what he just picked up. So I do like that line. The conditioning into coin 5 is going to be pretty disgusting.
Yeah, it's just such a crazy hand, and you're going to have oversized minions. You could wait for it to rank 2, but I don't think you need it. It's
Yeah, I don't
probably
think so
even
either.
greedy. I think something that people underrated is the interaction between conditioning and Warmo Challenger, because that card hand buffed is so nice. It's just
Oh
so
yes,
powerful.
kill anything basically, right? And leave something behind.
Exactly. I think it's just so good. It can like if you hand buff it twice, it can trade into 6/6s and not leave anything behind, or trade into 5/6s and leave something behind, which is insane. And even more
Yeah.
if you can hand buff it further.
So he's, Duin's got an interesting play line here. You could Kazakus into 5, which, on the board doesn't seem too slow, but he does know that, Isocles has some buffed minions. Or this play, which is basically you are gonna clear some of the board probably, and it also maybe sets up a big field contact turn next turn, perhaps. I mean, that is certainly a possibility. And I
Correct.
do like this line a little bit better. It's not the simplest, but you gotta do what your deck does, and your deck is Miracle Road for a reason. You do wanna probably draw into it and see what answers you're gonna get.
Right. We are seeing the warrior just draw a lot here. Um, just keeping it going into this rogue, and that's a really good. Just it's really what you need. You got 5 mana, summon a 4/6, which is already pretty good for 5, and now you have 3 cards in your hand that are going to be buffed by your Overlord Rumthak, if I'm saying that right. How does the rogue catch up? Can field contact and draw maybe 3 or 4 cards, but is that? I don't think that that's enough to win the game.
I think that there's a weird, really strange line of play as well, where, and I've thought about this from the perspective of the warrior. It's weird playing this deck when your opponent plays no minions, because all of your rush setup requires you to actually attack for the most part, and the two minions on the board are not rush minions, so they wouldn't get buffed by Rakara, right, is the name, right? The legendary. So there's a thought process of can you do this turn where you somehow leave nothing left? I kind of think that you could, but it's a little bit strange, awkward, different. It's a different line of play.
Yeah, it does seem like they're going for it. Well, the prize plunderer changes.
No,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
But you do shadows. Oh, you don't? Okay, I thought that he was going to shadow step the field contact there to get back the penflinger and the field contact. Maybe the thought here is that we just want to create a board of some kind, but losing the penflinger feels like a quite a bit to give up. I don't know, especially with the field contact when you have the shadow step.
Yeah, I really hate losing this Flinger. Even if Flinger can't go face anymore, it's still a really good card. You're going to need to play the Brain Freeze into this. I kind of wanted the Shadow Step on the field contact to get a 1 mana 1 and see what I did with it later and still have the Flinger in hand. It just,
Exactly. That keeps your draw engine going, right? So if you can do that, and you have a lot of cards in hand, that would have. I mean, we didn't see the brain freeze, I guess, but you had the wand maker, you had the Vanessa Van Cleef, you had ways to keep the train going, so to speak. Um, I didn't see, he man, it's crazy how fast people play, but I didn't see what the options were. But I was kind of thinking that I'm sure poison was probably one of the things he would have been looking for.
he went for basically the Rush Warrior choice of just rush and double. Double, I think, has
Right.
been one of the best options in general for Kazakus. It's just so many times it is the correct answer. But Rush is really good. It's just a five, two five fives with Rush and double. They can do some work, but the question is, can the warrior just with the buffs and with everything it's done, just prepare a board that's very resilient to that?
Yeah, that's kind of my thought process here is just that you've seen a number of buffs go out now. You know that he's drawn a bunch of minions, and maybe there's not, you got to play to your outs though, of course. Like there's no perfect solution, but and maybe and that's why I said I didn't see, right? It could very well be that this is all you got. So you gotta do with what you have, right? And it's the best that you have.
Right.
I mean,
I
it's
mean,
gonna
it's going
help
to
out
help out
here for
here for
sure,
sure,
right?
right?
You can kill these two value cards here, or you probably have to.
Yeah, you can even Tenmu your own golem and play it since your Tenmu costs 1. So that would be a valid play, but then you don't have OTK anymore.
Right, and he does have those cards in hand, including the Shadow Step. It's very interesting how this Rush Warrior deck plays, and I'm kind of interested to see where it goes from here, so to speak. I don't think it's in its final form, so to speak. Maybe we probably just need more stats and more people kind of fine tuning it. It's got some very strange play lines where on one hand it can be explosive in the early game. But on the other hand, it can also play these kind of long drawn out value matches of just putting on big things on the board over and over. But you can see here we're on turn 7, and both people are still pretty healthy, over 20 life, right? In fact, the rogue has more life than the warrior, even though the warrior has generally had more board presence.
Right. I think there's a lot. This 10 treasure also helps a lot here. It's just putting pressure, and the rogue needs to deal with it. You would like to get to turn 10 so you can OTK your opponent. You can probably OTK if you survive 2 more turns, but You need to be able to reach it. And can these secret passages be enough? I think the Rush Warrior in particular, the way it's currently built, is a little bit greedy. No Hands has been pushing some less greedy cards that I personally like. Because I think they just make the deck even more intense in the early game and just say, I'm fine losing later, but the chance is not that big that I lose later anyways.
Wow, he's getting so much I think he might get there. I mean, he just needs to figure out how to do the next 2 turns, but he's getting a lot of freezes, out here where I don't know if the Rush Warrior is gonna be able to get enough on board um, to actually finish him off, which is kinda crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very surprised that the Rogue, the Miracle Rogue, or whatever you want to call it, is doing this well in this matchup. It's a pretty tough matchup, and we're just seeing the Rogue saying, you know what? I don't want to be Rogue. I just want to be Freeze Mage, and that's what I'm becoming right now.
So, was that a misplay? I'm kind of assuming it was because you should have done it in the other order, right? The flurry, first, and then whichever one you don't hit, but he does hit all of them in the end. Unless
Unless,
flurry secretly just goes for the non-frozen minions.
yeah, I don't know if Flurry has any interactions, but I think the main thing is I was wondering if he would just save the Flurry because you need two more turns. You need to survive after this. I kind of
Yeah, I
wanted to
was
think of that.
yeah, I was thinking along those lines as well that you might save it. You might save it for 1 turn. That's what I thought he was gonna do, but maybe at the last moment decided to, do something a bit different. Because and I'm not sure exactly what the thought process would be because the 1/4 I mean, I know he wants a discount, but the 1/4 would probably be fine, and he finds out very quickly that doesn't matter because rush minions.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also an ETC in hand, and as much as it seems unimportant, it actually could become a major player at this point because it just deals face damage, and you're going to have one turn to win. That's kind of what this match is boiling down to: is a single turn, can you kill them or not? Um, there may be a shadow step or something involved, but it's all going to be about that.
Okay, so on turn 10, he does he have to play the Alexstrasza now and shadow step it is what I'm trying to figure out in order to do the full combo on turn 10.
So when you Tenmu does and you Shadow Step, I believe it costs one for the rest of the turn. And then if you Shadow Step it, I think it goes down to zero, but I could be confused.
I see, okay. Well, he's forced to use it here, I think. I
Um,
mean, was there anything in Secret Passage that may have changed that? Okay, I see.
he doesn't need the full, he only needs to do it twice. So Shadow
Right,
Step
right, right.
makes sense in that way.
Mm, the rope is burning. But his opponent has lethal on the board currently, so he does need to do something here.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's rough. The time.
there isn't enough time. Did he get to play the
He
prize
didn't
plunder?
get the prize plunder off, yeah.
Yeah, without the plunder, this is lethal. You just have
Yeah,
lethal from board.
just from board, right? As long as he doesn't miss it here. I mean, he has Alex Strauss in hand too, so there's no way. I mean, this tells you how difficult to this Miracle Rogue is to pilot. I'm sitting here trying to think through because I don't play this deck and trying to think through how to execute this combo um, in this OTK combo. And it does how much then? 24?
So I am actually not sure because it depends on the discounts. I think you can do 24, and I think if you get two discounts or a discount in two pieces, it actually deals 32. I think you can go for three, but I've actually never played this deck recently. And or I have, but I've never needed a full combo. I can just do it with two. The OTK is mostly for priests, and even then, priests might just win because they have Lucia.
Okay, I do see he would have had a 3 card, basically a 3 hit combo, which would have been 24. And so he did have it, assuming that the warrior doesn't hero power, because I thought that he was at 23. I'm not 100% sure, but I thought he was at 23. So it would have been
Yep.
close. And he did need to discount, I believe, the Tenwu so that he had 1 mana left over. So he needed because he had the 9 drop, and then, honestly, that whole thing simplifies immensely if he shadow stepped the, field contact way long ago, because he would have had Penflinger, and, that would have helped him to ensure that he could discount all his cards once he eventually drew the frenzy guy.
I agree. I think a lot of this match he was paying for not doing that play. He could have had more draw. He could have gotten earlier plunderers. He could have just done more stuff. And because he decided not to, even if he would have one less shadow step in the future, I think it would have just been stronger overall.
Yeah, I think he would have been able to contest the board, if he needs to get later. He still has wicked stabs, right? If he needs some extra push at the end too. So
Now, this is a matchup that I actually think is very rogue favored because, well, especially if this was secret, but this not being secret, I still think it's rogue favored just because you can deal so well with buffs. How do you feel about this matchup? Even though this is an unstable week, so we're not sure what's going on. How do you feel about rogue versus aggro paladin?
I do think that, especially when it's aggro paladin, which brings us, back to the deck choice, so to speak. I do think that this is fairly favored, when it comes to Miracle Rogue. I do think that Miracle Rogue has. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are going to be, because, yeah, you are still, ironing out some of the details of these decks, right? So, I would say it's probably pretty close. It's probably going to come down to draws and things like that, in part because right now doesn't feel like the best of draws from Paladin. I'm gonna assume, though, that as we get later, things like Ogremancer, the Hammer of Naru, these are some of the things that might help the Secret Paladin push. But you'd like to see sorry, not Secret Paladin, it's Aggro Paladin. You'd like to see the Aggro Paladin establish some kind of board in the early mid game, but it's just not happening because the Rogue does have answers with the Penflinger, with the Prize Plunder. Even this Wand Thief is quite a bit of a nuisance in the early game. And Mankrik, even. I mean, all of this really helps the Rogue deal with this early game.
Right. Ankrik is a just good card now, and it's had a good early game play. Just making sure you have that one body that it's a 3/4 body, and then out of nowhere you get a 3/10 body that punches your opponent in the face and very likely sticks a few turns because it has 10 health.
I wonder. I mean, I was thinking just you Mankrik prize plunder. That's very simple. You only kill the 2/1, you leave the 1/1 up. I'm sure there's some other cute plays you can do with Penflinger, but I'm not sure if you want to go that route this early. I mean, you can. You could even feel contact, right? Oh, maybe that is what he's doing. I mean, it's true though. I mean, it makes sense. There is a lot of logic to that, because you're going up to turn 5, which is the Blessing of Authority turn, and additionally, there's not much in the Paladin deck that can do direct damage, so you could even leave the field contact alive for a second turn, which is very rare. But he does do the simple play in my mind, which is just the Mankrik and Prize Plunder play in the end.
Right. Um, that is a McGurgle Prime. You could just play and say, if I play this, I probably win. You don't have great ways to deal with a board full of Divine Shielded Murlocs. Do you think that's what the Paladin is going to play for this game?
I mean, yeah, I think that it has to be at this point. I mean, quite honestly, these cards he has in hand, unfortunately, are not great. Yeah, it's unfortunate. This is easily handled as well, even easier now. I was, yeah, I'm still thinking about that previous play. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if it was field contact, pen flinger, coin, prize plunder. He would have cleared the whole board and had field contact on play. And I honestly don't think on 5 mana Paladin has anything that goes with field contact. And so that you could even follow that up with secret passage or something insane. But yeah, getting the man crick down is nice. It is in your deck now. Oh, he's gonna go for this now. Interesting. I was thinking here you could also just secret passage and see, but I mean backstab secret passage.
Yeah, I also didn't even hate the secret here. It might be a little bit too slow, but honestly, Penflinger with the secret would have been annoying to clear. Just
Yeah, I hear
overall,
you on
really
that.
nice.
Yeah, so this comes a turn late now, and there is an answer to the field contact. I like it's interesting that Duin just doesn't mind at all leaving his penflinger up.
Yeah, I think he realized that the only thing that would deal with both would be something like Crab Rider Hand of a Doll, and that's not happening this game. It's very unlikely. Crab Rider had good opportunities to be played before. So this is fine. I think he just thinks this is a fine play. Could just swindle and brain freeze really and say, "Here you go. You can't do anything with your board. Let me try to beat you by making sure you don't do anything to me." But we know there's a McGurgle Prime coming next turn, and that tends to win the game.
Yeah, I think that, you're now in the sweet spot, so to speak, for Paladin, because, based on this hand, certainly you have oh, interesting, just a tempo 6/6. Do you buff or you just save conviction? I probably would throw it down just because we just wanna put as much pressure, okay. I like that play. I mean, I was thinking about the goody two shoes play or some other kind of play, but I think he's understanding. Isocles is understanding the situation, which is basically we want to kill the rogue as fast as humanly possible, and so this line makes a lot of sense. I'm a little surprised that we didn't do the mech, the Octobot and Penflinger first. I didn't see the mana and how it would work out, but maybe he has no way of killing this elemental without doing what he did.
Yeah, I think this is the best way. I think he had enough. I'm actually not too sure either, but I did think he had it.
I haven't been counting cards, whether this Pliers Plunder is good or not. Feels like it should be, right?
It's never
Man, I
bad.
really haven't been counted. Yeah, does it kill the 6/6 though? Okay, just enough. I was like, it's 5 or 6. It's either 5 or 6.
Right. We are going to see McGurgle Prime, and I'm sure this is just slammed on the board, even if there are some targets you would like to kill, etc. It's just so good. Just slam the 6/3 Divine Shield, put a bunch of Divine Shield minions. Hopefully, one of them is a fishy flyer, and you can just win from there.
Yeah, Rush would be ooh. Oh, very okay. So at least you get the Crab Rider. Those are some low value Murlocs though when it comes to rolling.
Yeah, that's really bad. No 4 mana 4/4, no 4 mana 4/3 rush. Just really a lot of low value Murlocs.
So he's gonna overdraw here, which might not matter. Oh, guess everything is fair now. You low rolled as the paladin there, but they burned Jandis, which maybe doesn't matter. I mean, you had Shadow Steps, but you got to deal with this board. That's all that matters now.
Right. The Mancrick doesn't. It's a good minion to have. It can kill the Crab Rider because, hey, you cannot let this Crab Rider live. Doesn't matter what you're going to do. Letting the Crab Rider live is just wrong. You need to think of ways to deal with this board, or at least to stall. Snap Freeze is stalling, but is it good enough to stall? I guess he does say yes. I think it can freeze their 6/3 Murloc for at least a little bit.
Yeah, the fact that he threw the Wicked Stab to face there makes me think that this is. I mean, he's just going to search for some kind of lethal out, right? I mean, it seems like that's where he's going. I'm not sure. Does he get there? It's 11 damage, and you're gonna lose the board,
Well, if you
probably?
go
Although
face,
this 310 is pretty hard to kill.
if you go
Oh, he
face
has the
with,
other wicked stab. Okay, I see, okay.
yeah, this would be lethal if the paladin cannot heal, or cannot kill you really. But I don't see a way the paladin kills him.
Right, the life binder. Yikes.
Yikes, indeed. That I think ends the game. I think that settles it for doing winning. Um,
That was a great read. Yeah, I don't see it.
Now this is not 27. It's a lot of damage, but it's not 27. You can
For
count
sure.
you can count it however you want. This doesn't kill the rogue, and we know the rogue has just basically 8 mana from fate from hand, just Alex King Crush going face and winning here.
Yeah, if only the paladin had their own Alex, right? That was, I guess, the only carded out.
Yeah, the Alex or something that healed, but I don't think they run anything in their own deck.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to I'm not 100% sold on the bring of this aggro pally into this lineup. But again, I don't know the numbers very well, so I could be completely wrong here. I mean, 20 hindsight is 2020, right? I'm sure that the deck is probably fine. It just maybe doesn't draw quite perfectly here in these situations.
Right. So we do close the game here with Duin beating Icicles. And I'm going to hit Duin for an interview right now. I am adding him to the call. So 1 second. Um, okay, so we should have Duin here. Congratulations on
How's it
your
going?
win.
Hey, thank you.
How did
This
it feel?
It felt good. I actually it's funny. I just like I haven't been playing so much standard, so I just grabbed those decks yesterday and was practicing them yesterday. The rogue is tough to use, but it feels powerful at the same time. Like it's hard to like figure out like how to combo or what when you should save like the right pieces and stuff. And I don't know that one I'm still figuring out. Um, but yeah, no, standard deck seems pretty fun. It seems like there's less discover and like less like random effects. So it actually seems like it's been pretty fun.
You've been spending more time, I assume, in Wild then?
No, I've been spending more time playing Legends of Runeterra.
Completely different game, got it.
Yeah, I haven't been the last like ever since like January. I haven't been playing as much Hearthstone, but like I don't know. Actually, standard I've been having fun with the last couple of days, so I might be playing some more.
Yeah, you
Um,
played great, and, the Rogue, even that matchup that looked unwinnable, you were, half a step away from finding a way to win, the Rogue versus Warrior matchup, right?
yeah, that was a tough one. I needed that one minion to survive, and I think I could have possibly got there if I would have reduced my hand again. Um, it would have been close. So
Impressive, to see you navigate that just because there's so many different lines of play with this, Miracle Rogue basically, and
yeah,
in both games, and then even, your recognition there right away, on going for the lethal play, which was definitely the best answer to all these Divine Shield Murlocs, right, in the last game.
yeah. I was looking. I was like, would he be? 'Cause I don't know standards well, so I'm like, is there any healing? I was like, I don't think there's any healing in the deck. I was like, if I just put him to now like 8, less than 8, I should win. And I was like, wait, is there any like things that make my battle cries cost more? Like I'm trying to run through all these cards that I might have to play around like against wild. I would understand that, but in standard, I have to think about like what cards are here, like what cards. But then I didn't think there's any healing in that deck, so I went for that lethal line. Um, yeah,
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Tell me a little bit about the Hunter deck. So Lotus was saying that you play a Hunter a lot. You have the Zixors, which you did end up kind of using, right? It
yeah.
did become somewhat relevant. What was the thought process in that include? Did you just find the list somewhere? Like, how did you come to that?
Oh, I was sent the list. Somebody just sent me the list, and I just played it.
Okay.
I think Zixer's a fun card to get. Like, I like the comeback mechanic with Zixer. and I was trying to
Mhm.
like line it up where like I could kind of like get Zixer on 8, especially like against that
Right,
paladin. I kind of need that comeback mechanic sometimes. So I like that we can discover the buff minion.
right.
And I thought about going for the Rhino to push for lethal, but then the Zixer line to me felt like there would be like kind of no way I could lose if I
Yeah.
went for Zixer instead of like the Rhino seemed like it made sense too, but I was like, I don't see a way of losing if I go this route, so I just went that route. Um, and I just like if it's an extra turn lethal, then yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah.
What were some thought processes, once you saw like, in preparing your lineups? Like, I don't know, we were talking before the show a little bit about or in the beginning of the show about,
Okay, so
what rogue.
this is how I prepare my lineup.
Yeah.
I message based, and I say, "Give me 4 classes and 4 decks," and he sends me 4 classes and 4 decks, and I play those decks. Literally, that's my standard, prep every single time. I message based, like, a day before I play. He sends me 4 decks, and I play those 4 decks. No questions asked.
Does Based at least look at your matchup, like your opponent and stuff, or
I think he probably does.
okay, got it.
He might, um, he might. I sometimes will tell him what classes I want. I'm like, "I want these 4 classes, give me 4 decks." And that, like, I guess when I get my opponent's, like, decks, I do kind of make some, like, substitutions in the lineup,
Right,
but I don't know the meta near enough to do that now. So, like, I just jammed whatever he told me to jam. So,
got
but
it,
sometimes I'll
okay.
make, like, a substitution. I'm like, "I don't know if I like this card. Maybe I want this tech card because they're bringing X and X or something," you know? Um, yeah.
Yeah, because the other thing, I mean, both of you, you and Isocles both brought this aggro paladin, which I also found was kind of interesting. It's not that it's not, popular. I mean, it is a popular deck, relatively speaking, but there's so many different, to choose that over
It
secret paladin or secret and Libram paladin, like which package do you, bring? And I
Yeah,
felt like it
I
had
haven't tried that's the only so these are the only standard decks I've ever played in this
ah,
meta. I actually just played my first game of standard yesterday in this meta. I haven't played since the expansion of standard at all.
that's
I've
impressive.
played each deck twice, just so I
Mhm.
each deck 2 to 3 times just so I could kind of understand how the deck worked, and then, yesterday 'cause I actually thought my match was yesterday. Um, but I tried each deck before the match, and then I was like, "Oh, my match is tomorrow. Okay, I have more time to prep," and I didn't end up playing. Um, but yeah, standard seemed fun though. I don't know, I might play some more
Yeah,
standard.
it is pretty fun. I mean, was there a particular deck that you enjoyed playing from today?
Um, the Paladin I've never lost with that Paladin yet. I won 3
Wow.
games on ladder I won 3 games on ladder with it, and then I won the 1 game today, and it felt like I just rolled over my opponent every time so far.
Yeah.
Um, the Hunter deck I did not care for at all, but I'm starting to like it. I don't like aggro decks very much, but, like, I'm starting to kinda like it. The Rogue is just very tough to play. I might have to just get used to it or consider how I can make it kind of feel like I like the old, like, Miracle not old, the old, Wind what's it it's like the combo Rogue, like, but it plays that wind
Yeah, World Kick, World
World
Kick.
Kick. I like that deck a lot. Like, I like all the generation and, like, the, like, all the discover and stuff, and I don't know if there's quite something like that now. Um,
They
but this
definitely got rid of a lot of the generation.
Yeah, so this one feels, I guess, close enough and it has a combo finish that I just need to get used to it.
Yeah, yeah, okay. You played it really well for someone who doesn't usually play that kind of deck, it sounds like, or at least, like, you're kind of new to this meta.
Yeah, I'm new to that meta, and yeah, and that deck is, like, what to save for the combo, like, when should I reduce my hand, things like that I'm still trying to, like, learn. Um, and all the other decks seem straightforward, and the priest is just I'm just really good at priest, actually. Um,
Okay.
even though I'm a hunter main, like, I'm really good at control style decks, and priest just offers me lots of control tools.
It's
So
interesting that you're a hunter main and then you're self-described as not an aggro player.
yeah, I love mid-range, and I like greedy decks, so I play a lot of, mid-range and, like, greedy death rattle decks in wild. So all my hunter experience mainly is to wild. I have, like, close to I think no, it's over 15,000 ranked hunter wins now.
Oh my
So,
gosh. And
yeah,
most of those are in wild?
most of those are wild. I don't play standard that much at all. I've only hit standard legend once.
But what
Um,
are you what there's no as far as I know, there's no hunter, like,
well,
deck in the meta in wild right now, right?
I hit legend with well,
I mean,
it
besides
depends.
Face Hunter.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I hit legend every month on stream with the different hunter deck. Like this month I did Secret Hunter. Last month I did even Reno. The month before that hit legend with a Tonk Rattle Hunter.
Interesting.
There's like Spiteful Hunter I've hit legend with before. Like I every month I try to do a different hunter deck legend, and they're all fairly viable. Not like top 200 viable these days, um, but yeah, I mean they're viable enough to get legend, which is fun.
That's very
So
impressive that you're able to find
yeah,
these
I just
value
think they're
greedy
just fun.
decks.
I just think they're fun. Like yeah, I hit legend with Yogg Reno Hunter a while back too. That was fun. Yeah.
All right, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So I have one final question I want to ask, and you kind of already answered it, but I'm asking it anyways. Do you have any shout outs you want to give for your teammates, people who helped you? The floor is
Oh,
yours.
Also, so you can check me out at doing HS on Twitter and twitch.tv/doing HS. I stream as well. Um, and I'll always give Based a shout out. I love playing on teams with Based, and anything that she tells me to play, I'm just gonna jam that and play it. And I, yeah, anything that she says, I just like follow. So, yeah. So shout out to Based.
Awesome.
all right.
Yeah, always shout out to Bays. With that, I want to thank Duin for being here. Thank Icicles for playing his match on stream, and I think we have another match to go. Shall we get it started?
All right, guys, bye.
Sounds good. See you, doing.
So now we're going to start with Ridiculous Hat versus Nails. So this is a pro match. I'm going to change the logo here, but this is a really good one. We have Ridiculous Hat representing Aeon, a really good team for a few seasons now. Well, I regret saying that. A team for a few seasons now with kind of a bunch of chaps and who's done okay. Versus Nails, who's rank one legend in two servers at the same time. So, how does this match feel to you, Wild Nine? Tell me a little bit about these players, about the classes, and then we'll go zoom into the decks really quickly.
Oh, I mean, it's a great match. You have Ridiculous Hat, who fan favorite, so to speak, podcaster, content creator, Blizzard recognized, right? And then you have Nails, who is one of the top players in THL, like you said before, rank one legend, multiple servers. Scary player to play against for sure. And in some sense, you could say, well, the current score in the pro, in the to pro match, Clownstone is up 12-8. So in some sense, Aeon, if Ridiculous Hat pulls off a sweep, they can still tie, so they're still not out of it. There's still something to play for here, but definitely going to be fun and interesting. And even, with some of the deck submissions, it's very interesting to see like what they're bringing, what these both people very plugged into the competitive community, the competitive scene, how are they interpreting the pro meta?
For sure. Let's take a quick look at the decks, though, because I think they are in pro. Since you know the decks, you can get a lot of information. We have Pat here with the Face Hunter. The is that a life? I don't even know what that. It's a mid-range demon hunter, I think. A aggro paladin and or aggro secret paladin and a miracle rogue playing oil rig ambusher. That is a weird list for secret rogue. While Nails is going for some kind of way more controlly decks. He has the priest that has been everywhere on ladder right now. The warrior that is a rush warrior, the secret paladin with the Libram package, so secret Libram paladin, and just his miracle rogue. So overall, it seems like Hat went for a much more aggressive route, while Nails went full control.
Yeah, and that I feel like Nails, we would say that these decks are very in meta. What probably people would say are some of the best decks in the meta currently. Nothing too wonky or strange. And it's not that Hat is bringing super strange decks. I think that I mean, they did have to submit on Thursday, and so that's probably affecting some of this. Mid-range Demon Hunter isn't performing as well as I think initially hoped, but definitely can be in the right matchup, very effective. Um, and this Rogue is the weirdest one or the most interesting one, where you have a secret package, but you're not playing the secret legendary. You're not really trying to either because that would be a value card, right? And a lot of cards like Sinister Strike, as well as Oil Rig Ambusher, are included in this deck. So it seems like the secrets are just there for support and for reload essentially, which is very an interesting and then Spark Droid Cheat, I guess, right? So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the bans are and what. Oh, we do have the bans coming in. Looks like
Right.
Ridiculous has banned Warrior and Nails, and I was kind of thinking that this would happen. Ban the Rogue. So unfortunately, we won't get to see this kind of interesting Rogue play out. But when I looked at the numbers too, so to speak, or the stats, it did seem like it made sense. It was kind of obvious for Nails to ban the Rogue.
Yeah, and I think especially the warrior. The warrior being banned for hat. The warrior has been really good at punishing aggro slash anything that tries to fight for board because everything has rush and is well statted. So I think this makes perfect sense from hat side as well to just make sure there's no warrior in the middle. I also think if I were to guess, yeah, I think Nails is fairly favored here just because he went with an anti aggro deck lineup and Hat seemed to dive exactly into that aggro route. But that rogue would be the most questionable choice.
Yeah, I do think Nails is has the edge here in terms of lineups and matchups. Even with the ban strategy, it's just a tough. I think it's just tough, so to speak, for Hat here. I do think, yeah, the Rush Warrior is not great, but this is Conquest, so maybe you just forfeit that matchup and just say, hey, yeah, Rush Warrior is going to get a win somewhere. And maybe you ban something else, and like the Paladin. I don't know. He does have some reasonable matchups with Paladin, but his best matchup against Paladin was that Secret Rogue, and I do think that most of the numbers you can kind of expect Nails to ban the Rogue there.
Right.
Because now
Now
that you've
that you've
left it
left it
up,
up.
this mid-range Demon Hunter is much worse against the Secret Librarian Pally than the Rush Warrior. Like 10% worse, like much worse.
Yeah. Well, the Rush Warrior just had great matchups. Really, the Paladin is the only one that's not insane, but it's even decent because this is just Secret Paladin. It's not Libram. Libram would have been much rougher. Um, I think a lot of these decks also have just appeared ever since we had the fall of Mage. How did you feel about the nerfs, Wild Nine, and what are your thoughts on how they changed the meta this week?
Oh, I definitely think the meta is so much better. I mean, I think most people do. I mean, playing against that mage was just so frustrating, and it wasn't even fun to play. Like people who, joined the dark side, so to speak, to play that mage, like it wasn't fun. And it was obviously, playing two classes or seeing, the meta be dominated by two classes is obviously very problematic. This week so far, and even this weekend, kind of like what Dewin was just saying when we were interviewing him, you've got so much more class diversity. You're transitioning out of this meta of generating like tons of weird stuff, which now you've gotten rid of because the mage doesn't really exist anymore, right? With the lunacy, it just feels much more consistent. I think too, we're getting a lot more diversity. So hunter, paladin, rogue, warrior, priest, all a druid, even right, the token druid, they're all very viable. I'm interested about this demon hunter. I know we've seen a lot of play from it in general, both the OTK and the mid range. This grandmasters, but they had to submit on the second, basically the first second day of the nerfs. I don't know if Demon Hunter will survive. We'll see. It'll be interesting. And a lot of these decks are still being fine tuned. There's some really interesting in Europe Grandmasters, right? Warma just won with that ping mage, right? Which is interesting, but obviously a very different meta. So it'll be interesting to see where the meta goes after these changes. But I do think overall it seems to be um, a big plus.
Oh yeah. And speaking of big plus, we do have the match starting. Hat is going to start with his Hunter versus Nails Priest, and I did flip it, so I'm going to flip flip the display really quick for everyone. Um, 1 second, but why don't you tell us about this match while I fix this small streaming issue?
Yeah, I mean, right away, this is not a great match for Face Hunter. Um, this is a control priest list, and they don't want to see no control. But you've got everything you need in terms of what you've drawn. Turn one, and you got the charge minion. Like that's probably the best there on turn one. You got turn two, Imprison Felmaw. You got turn three now. You can just throw down the next Maw and clear this out. Very nice. And just keep pressuring. I mean, this is the pathway to winning a matchup that is rather unfavored. I think Hearthstone replay, HS replay has it at like 36%, something not great when it comes to control. So it's good to see that, this is going to be tough for Nails. Nails will have to kind of navigate this well. And those discovers were not great either. So he's going to have to find a way to stabilize.
Yeah, I think the one tool that I really like on Nails' side is actually the Light Shower Elemental. And I'll bring out the card because some of you might not remember what it does. It's just taunt with healing. Like, effectively, it heals 14 health to your hero, which is so much against Hunter. It's just a really, really good heal card.
Yeah, it's the P elemental, right? But yes, he has an answer to one of these 5/4s. I mean, he has to get there though, turn 6, right? He's already at 17. Uh, we did have a whiff there, in terms of turn 4, nothing really to play there. It's interesting that he chooses not to play the pack runner, and I'm gonna guess that he's playing around Hysteria there,
Yeah,
because
he's
Hysteria would be a
100%.
full wipe.
Hysteria would be really dangerous. The Mancrick as well was just such a clean Hysteria. He is rewarded for it because Nails does have the Hysteria.
Yeah. I mean, he has this, so he has to use the death instead. He gets rid of 1, and you do another 7, he's gonna be down to 10 depending on whether he heals here. Yeah, do you use the coin just for flash heal? Yeah, and then do you coin out the hero power too? I think, oh, you don't, okay. You're gonna save coin for next turn. Yeah, makes sense. You can play the elemental then.
Yeah, I think your both of your considerations are whether you're going Hysteria or going for the Elemental. If you go Hysteria, you can Hysteria inside. If you go Elemental, it's just coin Elementals. Good. Um, I
Well, now
think
you're playing into Hysteria, which is fine, I guess, because he coins out the light shower elemental anyway.
right. The big difference here is that you can really soon see a Mancrick that's going to come out of your deck, but right now, this is not looking great for Nails. Nails is just on the back foot and doesn't seem to be enough healing to stop the Hunter right now.
The speed of play is pretty fast. So I was thinking, the previous turn too, like, was there some justification for going for a hysteria play instead? Because in some sense, you are playing around, that piercing shot removal in some sense. I don't think it's necessary, of course, but maybe you're hoping to get even more value somehow from the hysteria. But it seemed like such a clean hysteria turn as well. You're down to 9 now. You're feeling the pressure.
Yeah, I think you need Hysteria now. There's no real option. Isn't good though. There's just going to be Barack Kodobane into probably some minions if you would like, or just hero power. Honestly, hero power is probably better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is you just hero power, right? Yeah. It's interesting because he could have also saved the coin, right? That was the other thing. In order to play the light shower elemental, he had to coin it out. You could have played Hysteria there and then just hero powered, perhaps. You get a clearing board, you save the coin, maybe it becomes relevant. I mean, maybe not, right? Maybe not at this point.
I don't see anything. I actually think the Hunter is getting away with it just because, honestly, two Felmaws in the early game is so major against Priest. Felmaw does a lot of work. It's at least 5 damage, and one of them survived a turn. It's just an
Yeah.
insane card.
It's that turn 1, 2, and 3 start, followed by the Mancrick, followed by, and which was great setup because, I mean, it made it actually, the more I think about it, it made a lot of sense from Hat's perspective because even if you Hysteria there, he already knows at that point that he has the Kodobane, which means that he has guaranteed way to throw out this 310 and do 3 more damage to face. So he's basically very, very confidently able to set up, a lot of pressure, even if, you hysteria the board off.
Right. And here
That should
Nails
do it, right?
goes for just whatever he can, but it really doesn't matter. Hat has lethal, and I'm sure he's noticed it.
Yep. Amazing. Making Priest look disadvantaged. Alright, so 1 in the book for Hat.
Yeah, that's one, and I think it's a pretty major one because a lot of Nails' lineup was pretending to prey or was intending to prey on this hunter.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that this hunter would have had a pretty tough time. Maybe has a lead against the Miracle Rogue, but that was the only real, positive matchup. Everything else is going to be a negative, and this one too. I mean, it's a very negative matchup, but he gets through.
Yeah. What would you expect to see now? We have for Hat the mid-range demon hunter and the paladin versus Nails paladin, priest, and rogue. I would personally guess that we're going to see the paladin for Nails, but what would you play if you were in either of these players' positions, Wild Nine?
I think I would play the paladin for Hat as well. I think it's overall his best matchups. I think that maybe it depends on whether you're gonna try to go for the sweep because, your team wants you to sweep, right? You can still tie. But, if you're not, so aggressive, maybe you say, "Okay, well, mid-range Demon Hunter is gonna have the toughest time," and it does have a good matchup against Control Priest, and it did queue it last, so maybe you luck out and you hit the Control Priest.
We were both right with our guess of a paladin mirror. We have
Yeah.
secret versus the secret Libram. Who's do you actually know who's favored here right now? I know usually it was Secret Libram that was very favored, but also that deck was favored against anything. What do you think is going to determine this time?
I think that post nerf, it seems like it's pretty close. I'm pretty sure HS replay stats have it as more or less 50-50. Um, I haven't, looking deeply at this list. Uh, One thing I do notice, I guess, from the Liber package, you are running two Penflingers, which is not too surprising. You're also running quite a few secrets and a diversity of secrets running. No, 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 they're not running the other secret. Never mind. Just one Avenge, one Galloping Savior, and the Oh My Yogs. I think that it'll come down, and already we're seeing it actually, to the early game. One of my thoughts was around this, whether you get Aldor Attendant in your Aldor cards, and that's gonna be a tough thing for Secret Pally to come back from when you're not running all that value generation.
Right. Yeah, we do
The
see
Sigil
the
is cute.
silence. It doesn't really matter this time. It could be a big deal in this matchup, but it ended up just not mattering.
I don't even know what that card is, Sigil of Silence. It's amazing.
It's the zero mana paladin sigil that silences at the start of your turn all enemy minions. It's kind of like a
It's it
way worse mess to spell.
it's a Demon Hunter card though, right?
Yeah, it's a demon hunter card that came out of oh my god.
Right, 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 yeah. I just thought it's interesting.
Yeah.
Alright, so secrets we got Avenge and Galloping Savior.
Yeah. Do you expect another oh my god? I will take a look at the list to think about it since I don't remember the exact list, but I think everyone plays two oh my ogs, so Pat knows it is a possibility. Is he going to play around it?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly there is a feeling for me at least. Okay, he was testing for Noble Sack. No, wait, he knows there's no Noble Sack, right? Yeah, there's no Noble Sack in his list. This triggers but this triggers the Galloping Savior, which he should know that it does.
I don't think he minds it though. I think he's
Oh,
just
right,
like
he's pulling the pen flinger back. Right, right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. I just thought that that was weird, the attack. I thought that he would purposely trigger the Galloping Savior and then save the attack because he didn't need to check for, Noble Sack. If only people still ran Consecrate.
yeah. I really
It's a
hate
good
this
card.
play from Hat though, because I think it exposes you so much to that flinger that you know is here. In case they just want to go with that, I don't think they will, but it is pretty much all in against that.
Yeah, that's true. But he does have the Avenge secret, so part of it would have been, you would hopefully get an Avenge onto one of these 2 minions. I'm sure preferably the Wind Fury one. Hmm.
That kills the
I
board.
yeah, I didn't like that. I'm a little surprised. I don't know why he didn't just test with the coin, but maybe again, because I think you could do something with 6 mana here, and he uses the coin anyway. Um, that was a little strange order-wise.
Thing this seems really bad for me from Hat side because 4-3 is pretty good, but it's nothing that wins the game. And right now, we know he can just flinger it out, just go hero power, flinger, flinger, and then win basically. There's not a lot you can do after that happens. I don't know if Hat is running any card draw. Maybe if he draws Kazakus, that could be a push from Hat, but this isn't looking great.
Yeah, I mean, the Hammer of Naruto would probably be one of the better top decks here. That's part of the reason why I'm surprised that he didn't test for Yogg in that spot. I do understand, and I have kind of felt this way too. Like in this matchup, it's very difficult to keep testing for Yogg, especially when they have Sword Up, right? When they have Sword Up, there is absolutely, I think, oh, there's the top deck draw. Um, there's absolutely a reason to decide not to test for Yogg, just to ignore it, because you can't keep testing for it, so to speak, right? I think there's that's reasonable. The problem that I have in this case is because you really want that card draw, right? In the situation you're in, and so you probably want to test either with the coin or with the secret. I think like did I thought he had a secret, or he had some other spell in hand as well that I thought he could have also tested.
Yeah.
This is
And
really nice.
Um, like if I'm had this is just so bad. An 8/8 Divine Shield Taunt is a really annoying opponent, and unless this first day of school gives me something really
Whoa.
good, I don't know what to do.
He got a sigil of silence. He could have prevented, Yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't think that I don't think there's much of a way out. I mean, that's what we were kind of saying even at the beginning. If you draw all the Aldors, and in this case, he even had both Librams and a Penflinger running amok. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, and this kind of puts Nails with his Paladin through. I don't think Hat cares though. I think Hat knew this Paladin was getting through anyways. Paladin and the Warrior were both getting through. He just needs to choose one to ban based on there's a very small chance I have a better game against the other one. But the decks that I'm really looking to target are the Priest to a lesser extent and much more the Rogue.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing that's lost is that Aeon officially is not winning this week, so Clownstone has won, just with that 1 point. But yeah, I do agree. I think that you are choosing, or you're not surprised. You had to choose, the lesser of 2 poisons, either the Rush Warrior or the Paladin. And so you ban Warrior, you expect the Paladin to get a win somewhere, and you do your best with the remaining deck. I'm not surprised by the mid-range Demon Hunter Q either. Partly because you're hoping again to snipe that control mage. Sorry, control priest. Um, even though this matchup isn't great, it's not terrible, and, it's not that much different from the Secret Paladin to some degree. I mean, Secret Paladin probably has a better matchup here, but it's reasonable enough that you just don't want the Control Priest to accidentally get away without facing your Demon Hunter, so I actually like this queue.
I think this is a good cue. I think it's fair. I am actually not too sure how's the rogue matchup. I think your favorite is Demon Hunter just because you go face a lot and they don't actually put that much of a board against you. But correct me if I'm wrong here.
Um, it seems to be 44% for the Demon Hunter, so it is a little bit unfavored.
Oh, interesting.
I do think that you're right in saying that the main way that Demon Hunter can get the win is essentially through, pressure, some tempo, and then, bursting right toward the end. Unfortunately here, the irony is that, the rogue has, like, the perfect curve, and we don't have, um Hat hasn't drawn, his Battle Fiend or any of the, the Wand Maker, the Mana Feeder, none of the early drops that you'd like to see if you are the Demon Hunter.
Right. And meanwhile, Nails is making a board and he's getting more wives. At some point, Mancrick is going to just happen. And shout out to Mancrick's multiple wives here. I don't remember who's in that team, but whoever made that name was amazing. Just credit
That
for
was our
that.
Yeah, we do have multiple wives here in this game. But, you have the Illidari Inquisitor, I don't know, I'm sure you're not gonna actually clear the the multiple wives if they come down, but it would be fun to see, 2 3 10s on the board.
Oh yeah, as long as you're not Nails or Hat, it would be well. As long as you're not Hat. If you're Nails, you're pretty
Right.
happy.
Hmm. So this taunt plus deal 3 damage to 2 random minions. Not necessarily the best. The taunt in particular, again, I didn't people are choosing so quickly.
That's something Hat does a lot. And at Schoolstone, we do not recommend playing super fast. It's very easy to make mistakes. Take your
Yeah.
time, think about your plays. As long as you're not playing Priest, we're happy enough. And no, we wouldn't be mad at anyone for playing Priest. But it's a smart move to take your time if you need it, and you do have around a minute in almost every turn. So feel free to use it.
Man, this secret passage drawing some fire here. You want the Shadow Step. We could get another wife if we want. Um, and the Swindle.
Yeah, the Swindle could draw Mancrick's wife, which would be really good right now. Just draw two cards, get a wife on the board, or get a wife. Sorry, get a Mancrick on the board that hits your opponent face for um, three and puts a 3/10. This is looking a little bit hard for the Demon Hunter. He needs Skull to basically win him the game right now.
So I was thinking there, yeah, you could. Oh, there it is. Okay, so he's not going to go for 3 wives. Just going to go for the two. The Snap Freeze is interesting. I was thinking about the what I don't even know the names. I'm bad with names. The two mana deal damage, discover a card, mage spell, right?
Oh, Rune Orb.
There we go. Yeah. But he chooses the freeze instead, which is an interesting line. I thought that he was gonna play out that hand a little differently with the snap. I thought that he was gonna leave the 5/5 up. Wow, these people are really just running. We have another wife coming out, or we've discovered another wife, I should say.
Yeah, there are wives on both sides of the board. Mancrick has gone Widow multiple times, and there's a lot going on. This is a really, really big board for both sides. They're just going for it, exchanging punches, and we do see Rune Orb. Um, Kevin Foxy right now. That's interesting. Nails is drawing like crazy. It's keeping the Demon Hunter at bay. I think this might be it.
Yeah, this snap freeze suddenly looks brilliant because it could kill off this. I don't know if he's gonna do it, but it could if he wanted to kill off this 310. I don't even know if it's necessary, but sure, why not? Maybe that was why. Maybe he already knew in hand he had a brain freeze. I actually wasn't keeping track, but if he had that in hand, then he knows he has guaranteed removal for anything, right? But this looks
Yeah.
like it. I mean, we have no way to clear this board.
No, I don't see anything Hat can do. I think this is the moment where bottom right happens.
Yes. All right. So Nail goes up to 2-1. It's just the priest left, so I'm kind of assuming that Ridiculous Hat will likely cue the Demon Hunter again, because this is probably why the Demon Hunter is there. It's to win a game against Priest.
Yeah, it's also pretty good against Hunter. And I think a lot of people earlier this week were thinking that Hunter was an unbeatable class. And Hunter just did what Hunter does a lot, which is start the expansion is the single best class. Nothing can hit it. It's the best thing post nerfs because it beats all the greedy stuff and it's usually pretty easy to build. And then just kind of whiff and become one more in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, I would say though that this hunter this time around feels like it's got more longevity. Not the kind of aggro face deck that just fizzles. I think mainly because of the Wrangler. That card is so strong and so good, along with the Kodo. Both of those allow you to really extend, the reach of Face Hunter, which is something that, of course, Face Hunter usually struggles with.
Yeah.
It's a nice wand maker off the top.
Yes, starting it hot. We do see one of the really important cards against Demon Hunter is Mindrender Lucia, because right after they play Skull, you play Lucia and they usually cry. Even though it's not OTK, it's still a really, really rough card for them to get through.
Yeah, that's a good point. Seeing as how Hat has both Skull of Good Hands in hand, we'll see whether we that comes to fruition this game. So this is interesting. Just the non-corrupted insight.
Like, if you're not going to do anything with your mana, it is just 2 mana draw a card, which is pretty bad, but is it better than nothing? Probably.
Yeah, I guess when you look at his hand, there's no way to corrupt it until he top decks this card. But there's no way to corrupt it for quite a while. I mean, even the Hysteria, you're not planning on playing that anytime soon. Probably going to hold it for a while. So it makes sense that, he's not going to do much with this 2 mana or with this, unless he holds it till turn 8, 9. Maybe makes sense to draw a minion instead, especially in this matchup, I imagine.
Yeah. A card to note here, just looking at this, not only the Scorpid, but also the Renew. Like, do you like keeping the Renew for when you need it, slash for max healing? Or are you the kind of person that rips Renew early and just wants to get something you can play the next turn by being efficient with your mana? How do you feel about the card?
Yeah, I definitely feel like in this instance, especially in this matchup, it makes a lot of sense to hold it to get some value from it. Plus, if you rip it there in, one of the early turns, especially without board pressure, you don't really know what you were trying to discover. I think that's the other aspect of discover cards. Sometimes it makes sense just to discover because, like this discover, for example, you're just discovering something from your deck. There are lots of cards that are good in your deck. And you see here, even in this situation, he chooses Holy Smite instead of maybe the higher value card in palm reading because of what's on the board. So I feel like that's one of the things about these discover mechanics is that it's nicer to use them more when you need them in some sense so that you can um, you know what you're looking for. So if he doesn't get something to play, um, he's gonna overdraw next turn. Not that it's the end of the world.
And I think I
Okay.
like just playing some of the cards so you're less vulnerable to Lucia. I think your opponent might just draw something like the dragon or the 6/6 that heals.
Yeah, 'cause that's a bad burn though, I imagine. It's
That is a
part of that.
pretty bad turn burn.
Yeah, it's part of your desire to, hit people in the face and just burst them down in a way. And now you've got this huge taunt in the way. Is this gonna
Yeah,
be like a one mana Kazakus? I guess if you do that, you won't I beam first if he's thinking that way. Yeah, it feels like this could find you something. Have to get a bit lucky. There's poison. Oh, that is removal if he chose it. Yep. It's pretty great tempo play there.
yeah. Honestly, no super great. You do have hysteria, but no insanely good answers right now. You could use focused will to silence it, to silence the poisonous, but that just doesn't feel like you're doing enough.
Yeah, I think one of the plays certainly is this light shower elemental and then silencing it. It doesn't feel amazing. You could also do the condemn, which at least kills 2 minions. But then I don't know what you follow up with. This is maybe a spot where you could go for that discover play and look for something that would be valuable. Also, you can do the venomous scorpion play to discover something. But none of those, of course, are safe, and you are pretty tight on mana, especially if you want to create something on the board.
Right. There is another focused will, so you could use that. Mm, Even the feast isn't that bad. I don't think you care about rally at all. Um, just
Right.
you're not looking for board. You don't have the Sethek combo right now.
Okay. It is going to be a condemn after not finding anything too meaningful or relevant. Makes sense that that's kind of your backup play. You look for the discovery, you look for something impactful. If you don't find it, then this is a reasonable response.
Yeah, but the priest is they have a lot of good things they can do. They can go for healing, they can go for silencing. There's just a lot in hand. I'm not sure that they've already won. I actually don't think so. I could see the Demon Hunter winning with a few good draws, but they're this is a weird spot for this match to be in. I don't think expected this to go this way at all.
So Hat takes a slightly different line here. He could have gone for a Skull of Gul'dan play. Maybe he was burned by the previous burn or something, but he would have had some mana left over too. It's interesting to see him not go for it. I think that he's trying to look for an opening. Perhaps there is an opening here. You do have turn 8 Inquisitor. So he's hoping that maybe the priest is out of good plays, isn't able to remove this board well, or even if he does, you have very uses most of his mana to do so, and then you've got a really good follow up. And so it looks like he's trying to go for the kill here in the next 2 or 3 turns, perhaps, and trying to set something up.
The focus rule
Oh, that's
hysteria does clear.
yeah, that's
Um,
really nice clear there. Okay,
okay,
but
but
that does is going to put his life total fairly low. I'm assuming the Inquisitor comes down. I'm not sure if there's any other play. Yeah. He's gonna be able to clear this off fairly easily with what he found from the Kazakus. But you are only at 6 now, and so it might not be the best play. I don't know if you have a response to this 8/8.
I think you need to renew and see if you can get something like a Shadow or Death, a Wave of Apathy. Shadow or Death is there. That's a pretty good one because then you can
Yeah,
drop
that's
the
very
Light
good.
Shower.
Exactly. Yeah. That was really good. Look like, not playing that renew turns out to be game saving.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a lot of damage.
Has just a ton of damage, but he needs something. He's not playing Kane. How does he get through the 6-6 without just losing
There it
everything?
is.
That is a way.
Warglaves. That is the answer, and he does set himself up for almost lethal. He will have it next turn. He's just a few mana off lethal basically there. I mean, he has all the damage basically in his hand is what I'm trying to say. I know that he gains life, so but he's got all the damage in hand. But there's another light shower elemental.
Yeah, and Renew, I think Renew is a card. I think it's the most powerful card in Priest. It's either that or Palm Reading that just does so much. And you can copy your Light Shower. I think this
Oh,
actually is
gross.
over.
Yeah, that's game, right? Is that game? Well, you have the other Warglaives, so I'm trying to even think, what was an outcast card that you could have discovered there? Because there's no more silence.
No, if there was Consume Magic, that would have been game, but no Consume Magic. This is really, really strong for a hat, or for Nails, sorry. And Hat is, I'm sure, just very annoyed at what happened this turn. Seeing this Gift of Luminance, it's just so hard for you. How do you get through this?
Get the attacks and get the Bladed Ladies out, but he will be at full life. But you can clear this, I think? I mean, honestly, finding a clear is just impressive and creating a board. I mean, that we are seeing in some sense the power of this mid-range demon hunter.
Well, the priest just one or another play that the priest makes a mistake, but this is looking really good for the priest. Um, just
Yeah.
the with the soul mirror, you just keep clearing and clearing, and that's what priest does. That's why priest is considered by some to be the best class right now. It just has so much lasting potential, and the Lucia protects him from a lot.
Yeah, I mean, well, the life binder, but the shadow word death. I just think if you Lucia here even could throw out the smite. Oh no, it doesn't even matter, I guess. Because he's got no hand, right? I mean, you could Lucia this just because, and in your own hand, I guess the life binder is a card, but you have response in death, and he's not going to be able to play both. You could just run him out of resources there if you wanted to. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure this mind render is not going to get played, right? Or probably not.
Yeah, Hat did send and imagine what would have happened if I counted my damage 3 turns ago. So I think Hat thought he had lethal. He might have had lethal at one point. I am actually unsure, but yeah, maybe with the bladed ladies, I wasn't exactly counting the details, but this is putting nails quite a.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand it's possible he was holding a ton of damage, and so it's possible that he needed to push harder. One of the things that I think is hard to say is simply because he didn't have Warglaves, and I kind of get why you might, in some sense, wait till Warglaves almost. Um, wow, is he going to get Mankrik or something? No. Um, it's almost like once you have the Warglaves, that's usually when you might normally start counting the damage, so to speak, or start thinking about these kind of lethal plays. But he's still pressuring an insane amount. Wow, going for the raise dead because the elementals, I imagine.
Yeah, if you hit an elemental, the game's over. But if you don't, this is not great.
It's a pretty high chance. Oh, he missed. I was gonna say there are a number of other things besides the elementals that he's seen.
The Stellina is really good. Just
It's
make sure you can shuffle that Fury back in. Um, Not having a hand isn't what Hat wants to see right now.
yeah. I mean, there's still a Mankrik, an angry Mankrik coming out too. He
Um,
does have removal for what's left. If he gets any healing here, that would be nice. Okay, well, it's just pure, complete removal, which is also good. And then you just heal your face over and over.
yeah, no second Inquisitor actually puts Nail so much safer. Really, he's afraid of card draw more than anything else.
Yeah, that burn. I mean, that burn really, yeah, made a big difference here. I don't know. It's interesting, that there was some risk playing that Alex Straza instead of maybe going for the mind render play, but we have perfect vision, obviously. So
We do. We get to see a bit more than they do, and it helps us a lot.
it's also scary. I can imagine, like from even Nails' perspective, I'm sure he's also thinking that he just doesn't need to. Like he has the game in the bag. What if, um, we switch decks and he top decks something, that's relevant. So I can definitely understand the thought process here.
Yeah. I think this is it though. I don't think Hat can
Well,
deal
no,
with
no,
this
no, there
one.
is an out. The 310, right? We haven't seen the 310 go face.
That's true. It could be
And
310 into the other one.
and we don't have lethal on the priest.
So
So
you
if it is the
re-
310 into Fury, or we know the last card also is Fury, so he actually needs to have some kind of well, we need the right order, basically. If it goes in the right order, isn't that enough for lethal? Should be.
that should be. So we could see an Elucia just saying, I know what your last two cards are.
Oh,
Let me
right.
get a turn.
Yeah, you're right. That's what it should be, right? It should be Alusha in this spot, heel face, and then just Alusha. Yeah, even getting rid of the death on the smaller minion, very smart. Really, really nicely played out there.
Yeah. I think that is probably it. Right?
I don't think Priest has direct face damage, right? Oh, ironic.
Yeah. Just seeing that man Crick is not great. And with that, Nails wins 3-1 against Hat. Enough to close the win for Clownstone, which is not a surprise, but just putting Clownstone really ahead, and Aeon starting with a slow start. Any comments on this match while I get Nails for a quick interview?
I mean, really well played. I feel like obviously we're watching someone who's very good at the game. But I feel like I can learn a lot from the way he played that matchup, especially a matchup that is not favored, right? And we could have possibly also, I mean, you said that Ridiculous had also messaged you about, counting damage and things like that. He still played reasonably well. We could probably nitpick at some of the choices or whether he should have been more aggressive earlier. But without the glaives, I think that it's pretty hard to make that read or to be able to count damage like 3 turns in advance. That's pretty tough, especially when you don't have something like glaives to push that damage really. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just thought it was really well played by Nails and certainly a good example of what you do when you're in that not so favorable matchup and having to deal with this kind of pressure. You can see even when he played incredibly well, he was, razor thin, right? Like he had to find a whole bunch of that divine shield luminous card and all that stuff, right, in order to really keep it sustained in the matchup. So we saw the power of both decks, like we were saying before, on full display and piloted extremely well as well from both sides.
And I'm adding Nails right now to the call whenever Nails responds. Congratulations on your win against Hat Nails.
Thank you.
How did it
Any
feel?
thoughts about the matchup?
Uh, so I was super favored coming into it. I called, I called him out on bringing aggro basically, and it was a really reasonable bring because we just had a patch hit. Aggro is generally easier to refine, and I'd spent the past like week and a half just bopping everybody with spell mage, and so uh, the fact that he's also shown a willingness to bring aggro into me last season, and the fact and just like the spell mage just made it it made it a pretty uh, easy call for me that he was going like not easy, but I felt somewhat certain that he was going to bring aggro into me, and so I just brought defensive decks that could push back against aggro, and they got home.
Yeah, did any of his brings surprise you at all, or did you feel pretty sure about the decks, even the deck lists, like that rogue, for
Um,
example?
so I didn't expect Secret Rogue. I was expecting probably just Miracle Rogue. He's a rogue gamer, and um, it was not. I was slightly surprised. Oh, this rogue is playing ambushers and secrets, and I didn't expect this. But like, it was pretty. Like, my warrior was just an easy ban from him, and so rogue was like slightly favored into the rest of my list. So it was a pretty straightforward ban from my end, as um, and I felt like I could handle the rest of the lists. Uh,
What did you think about that last, game in particular? You're definitely in somewhat less favored, right, in this matchup. I mean, we saw the power of mid-range Demon Hunter kind of, like, constantly creating pressure. Were there any specific turns that you remember where you felt like you were at a crossroads or that, you were kind of debating between 2 lines of play, or did it feel just very obvious to you? Like, I don't know how you thought about that matchup.
Um, it's so the stats don't like it, but mid-range DH is just not a very good deck, and so it's like apparently had actually had a lethal that he missed on a turn that he played Inquisitor when he top deck Third Fury. Is just what he mentioned to me after the fact, and so apparently it got there against me, but it's just like not a very good deck. Um,
Okay, yeah, like, he was messaging that and we weren't sure what he was referring to. That turn he took
I'm
really
also not
quickly.
entirely sure what he's referring to. I'm just taking his word for it because he's pretty good at Hearthstone. He tends to
Yeah.
notice those things and wouldn't be wrong about claiming that.
We're also talking a little bit, and this is more just learning from your perspective playing the priest, the role of Mindrender Lucia there, because we were talking even before the match. Oh, like it'd be an interesting card to play when your opponent has played Skull, so that you can burn out some of these low cost cards. But obviously, also because you're against a tempo deck, Hat is playing those cards pretty often, and then you used it like perfectly right there at the end. Was there any thought, any point before that of thinking about mind render, or is it more just like, it's a tech card. If I use it, I use it. If it just sits in
Oh
my
yeah,
hand all
I
game, it's fine.
absolutely. I mean, like you want to play it after this skull. It just I felt like it didn't line up well enough. And I had good turns before then. If he had like when I had a bunch of 6 mana plays in hand, if he had coined it, or I guess if he played it a turn earlier. That's kind of difficult to do, and I would have only had 2 mana. I don't know. Ilusha, yeah, it's not as great into tempo matchups. Um, it was where I used it at the end. It was just obviously good because it gave me another hero power, and that's what I needed to get out of the range of Fury plus Wife hitting me in the face. But or like at least another top deck to get out of range of it or just push lethal rather. But if he drew the death to kill my dude, like it was a tough position for him.
Yeah, was there
But
any thought about using it on the turn where you played Alex Straza? Because that was the turn that I was looking at a little bit, just because he'd run out
um,
of a lot of resources. He just had 3 cards that have been sitting there like all game, right, in hand.
so I probably I mean I've definitely thought about it. I decided that I didn't want to give him an 8/8 in hand, but I think I had the death, and so
Yeah,
it
you
could
had
have
the
been a
death.
good Alicia turn. Um, I also just didn't want to get my face burned for 8, and I thought he would have a difficult time responding to the 8/8.
Yeah, makes
He
sense.
had to have Relentless Fury to even have a play that didn't just make him cry. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I'm my priest play is not completely. Um, perfect, and I'm willing to concede that. Like, I still do pretty well with it on ladder, but it's um, like I've definitely got some prep to do with on it before the Masters tour, and so that's
Yeah.
like I also flubbed a line in game one where I just had a clean hysteria, and I decided to hope that he didn't have the piercing shot, and he did, and I got
Right.
really punished for that.
Okay,
Um,
we were talking about that as well.
yeah, I was kicking myself right after I did it, and um, I thought I needed to. I thought that I was kind of dying. Yeah, like I was scared of just the death rattle not going off and getting killed over the top if I didn't play that. But that was probably just a poor thought to have, and like it's statistically really unlikely for me to die there.
Right, right, right. That makes a lot of sense. The playing around the yeah, being killed somehow through the lack of healing, right?
Yeah, like I wanted the death rattle to go off, but I underestimated the ability of the hunter deck to like uh, generate more pressure. Double Thelma was rough,
Yeah.
um, and I didn't have uh, enough. I didn't really have minion presence to soak the hits, and so I just had to uh, tank it in the face. Hurt.
Yeah, he basically drew the nuts there, right? For the most part.
That's what it looked
That
like
turn
from
one,
my
2,
end.
3. Oh, from our end too. It was like, oh, this is a perfect turn 1, 2, 3 in this matchup, right? So
Yeah, I mean, it got there.
yeah, it
That was one.
happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I,
No, I mean, you played great. It was interesting to see you navigate that control place in both matchups, right? Because they were very aggressive. The face hunter is the one where you're more disadvantaged. Sorry, no, you're more advantaged, and then the other one is where you're more disadvantaged. And in both times, Hat seemed to have pretty good cards overall. I mean, the demon hunter didn't get a strong start in the first half of that, but both times, put you under quite a bit of pressure. So it was interesting to see you navigate that and do it really well.
thank you.
I have just two final questions for Nails before we finish our show. First one, I want to ask you a question that I ask everyone here, and it is: do you think the current meta with the nerfs is balanced now? And how does it feel so far? Are you enjoying it more than pre nerfs? I know there's no more spell mage, at least not as
I
much,
mean,
but how are you feeling?
I, it's a healthier meta. I was enjoying the pre-nerf spell mage meta a ton because I was really good at spell mage. So like it was the first deck that I've ever hit rank one on, and I got rank one on two servers with it. Like I can't honestly say that I like this meta better. Like uh, I can say it's objectively way healthier, and I'll leave it at that. But now I like the other meta.
That's
um,
fair.
yeah, no, it's a good meta, and I'm excited to prep for like a Masters tour and THL and everything else going like uh, with this meta because yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And the final thing I want to ask is: do you have any shout outs, anything you would like to say? The floor is yours here.
So first shout outs to Reggie. He like basically just passed me through the four lists, and I net decked the rogue from someone in Grandmasters. I don't even remember who. I think it was Luna, but I'm not sure. Might be Frozen. I don't know. Uh, I think it was one of the American GMs. Um, so yeah, the rest of the clowns, y'all are great as well. But Reggie got a special shout out for this week, and have to just give props where they're due. Aside from that, um, I don't know. No shout outs directly for this match. Like just my teammates. Y'all are cool, except for Neji. Like, but it's like kind of nice to have you around. You got you brought the band together, and so I'll give you props for that. You got a squad that's capable of carrying your ass.
It is fair. I want to take this time to thank all the players who played here today. I want to thank Icicles. I want to thank Duin. I want to thank Arhat. And I want to thank Nails for both playing an amazing series and just for the interview as well. It's been great having you. Always great having your matches. Thank you all for being here.
You know, it's a pleasure. I always love being on stream.
Yeah. If you would like to play on stream, just like Nails did, just DM me. We're always looking for matches every week. Any match is welcome. It can be high PR, low PR. Just coming out, hit us up. Other than that, we have quite a lot planned for you tonight. Starting later, we have a few matches with Saku, and I don't know who's casting with him, but there's going to be Lotus Knight versus Donde and a few really hot others. Um, so that being said, I think that is it for us. Thank you, Wild Nine, for joining me. I hope you had as much fun as I did.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for having me. And congrats, Nails. Good luck with your Master Tours prep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you everyone who played one more time. Thank you everyone who watched. And that's it for us today. We'll see you later.
Peace.